Christmas Day 1859, the good ship the Lightning arrived in Corio Bay, and on that ship now was 24 rabbits. And it's from there that those rabbits spread across Australia. Small numbers lead to big numbers.
Growing up as a kid in Port Campbell, there were no rabbits. None. And now they are rife. And I can't explain that.
The amount that you see is phenomenal. Probably about 300 to 400 rabbits in the mornings that you'll see around the area.
Certainly in the last 5 years, they've become further spread into the national park.
They were in the garden, they were in the street, they were on the foreshore, they were down near the beach. They were everywhere, and there was rabbit poo. My granddaughter wouldn't go into the backyard.
I suppose the first ones were cute, but they very quickly became not cute anymore.
Righto, well thanks very much for turning up. So we'll look at rabbits in the urban situations, and particularly the sorts of places that rabbits like to have, and those things that you can do to reduce those places as being good spots for rabbits. And we'll look at the damage that they do, because often what happens with people is that they look at the landscape and they think to themselves, well, this is the way it's always been. It's always been like this. But when you take the rabbit out of it, that landscape can change. So I was first contacted by Annie Schofield around about November 23.
I don't think that one's used, but when we were here last year it was.
And she described an increasing rabbit problem, and that this problem that she'd observed with the rabbits appeared to be getting worse and not better.
So one of the things we know is that we're not going to eliminate every single rabbit. By bringing Tim and spreading the knowledge and understanding of some control aspects, we're hoping to reach a balanced rabbit population in town that will hopefully maintain biodiversity and have scope for other endemic and native species in that area.
Well, we have had a lot of rabbits on our front yard.
Yep.
At night, sometimes you wouldn't believe how many rabbits are on the lawn.
How many?
Oh, I don't know, 10? So I had we put this fence up about maybe a week or two ago.
Yep.
And within about 2 days, the rabbits have chewed all through the base of it.
Yep. So that looks almost classically like an initial breeding burrow.
Yeah.
So the rabbits are getting enough protein, there's plenty of food here, and this is an example of the rabbits are colonising your place, and now they're going to establish.
Yeah.
So pretty much over the last 4 years, particularly the 3 years prior with La Nina, it's been in excellent conditions for rabbits. So I would reasonably expect that over the last 4 years you've seen an increase, and then that increase has increased.
And what worries me is that it is going to get dry one day. We will get a dry summer, and the rabbits have been eating this beautiful lush new growth grass, and then all the plants that we've planted around town and all the little natives that, if there are any still there, are going to then be targeted because they want the high protein, they want the green, they don't eat the dry. We'll have 400 rabbits, and they'll be in them and on them and over them and climbing bushes and eating all the little natives.
So boxthorn is an ideal place for rabbits because it gives them shelter, and that gives them time, and that gives them time to dig burrows. What I'd reasonably suggest is that if you map the burrow systems around here, we may find that this area here is an area of high numbers of burrows. And it might be high numbers of burrows because of the boxthorn. And then that might be the point source for a lot of the rabbits in this part of this area. We're going to go across the road here and look at some rabbit damage and sign. So one of the first things you have to do with rabbit management is to be able to assess whether rabbits are present or not. Dung is a thing that you'll tend to find, and you also find scratchings. So basically, the more dung and the closer those dung patches are together, the more rabbits you've got. So we've got some rabbit dung here, which is adult rabbit dung here, and we've got some juvenile rabbit dung there. What we see here is some rabbit damage, and which is an excellent prop provided by the rabbits. You can see they've chewed these bits off here. So rabbits are able to determine whether a food source is high protein or low protein. That means they'll continue to return to that high protein food source. What's likely to happen is that those sites will gradually be colonised by weeds. The impacts of rabbits in the natural environment is really quite significant. Just 1 to 3 rabbits per hectare, which is a very small number, can stop the regeneration of many native species. I think the chances of these surviving is very slim.
The rabbits have caused a lot of damage to everything here.
So they've even, sometimes with plants, they'll grab them as they're chewing them and they'll pull them out.
Since 2013 we would have planted thousands of plants in and around Port Campbell. After a few years we started realising rabbit numbers were building up and they were starting to impact on the plantings.
The rabbits have an impact right across the landscape, from changing the landscape so that native plants are gone, helping sustain introduced species like feral cats and foxes, and enabling harbour that suits rabbits and doesn't suit native animals. And if we go over here, here's an example that we prepared earlier. So this little bit of rabbit-proof netting here, this is an example here of what grows basically unmolested in here with rabbits being kept from it. So you can imagine if they did that over the other side, then they'd have that sort of effect. So the first bit about rabbits is, one, you can't out-kill them. Right, although it's an attractive and seductive idea that you might be able to kill all of the individual rabbits, it's never happened. Right? And there's a reason for it. What do rabbits do? Well, apart from watch television and recite poetry, rabbits breed. A gestation period of 28 to 30 days, we can get 6 to 8 litters. And in that first litter, that first lot of rabbits that have been born, within 3 months, it's possible to have breeding start. The doe can mate 1.5 hours after birth. So you're going to do what? You're going to kill them all. Well, just like lots of Australians, for hundreds of years, you can't out-kill them. So consider what your opportunity is. In any area where you decide that what you want to do is have no rabbits, so that's only possible by having a rabbit-proof property. So this is rabbit-proof netting. This is made by Waratah. You can get it in 1200 mil height, you can get it to 600, 300 mil. Now you can use U-clips or something like that to attach it there or drill it in. If a rabbit can, it'll push under. Right, so you need to ensure that when you've put it in, he can't push under there. Now when a rabbit wants to dig under here, he'll start here, right there. And he'll pull at that with his teeth. He'll try and dig through it. That rabbit might die, but the next generation of rabbits will work on it again. And they'll keep pulling at it, and then they'll break it. They will try for generations. They will never, ever give up. For this sort of situation, the thing to do is to look around the house and look at where are the places that you think rabbits are getting through. The key to controlling rabbits is about deciding what it is that you want to stop the rabbits from doing. If it's a housing block, sometimes the best thing that you can possibly do there is to rabbit-proof fence that block. So here's a potential source. Here you can cut a little bit of netting. You can attach it to there and some out here. Ensure that there are no burrow systems on your property. Ensure there aren't places where rabbits might be able to safely harbour. So that back fence doesn't look too bad. That one doesn't look too good. It's about finding the things that are advantageous in that environment for rabbits and changing that. In other words, you exclude them from the burrows. So it's then up to every individual to do their own place, isn't it? I can see multiple burrow systems. So this pile of earth is effectively, this elevated soil is what they're digging into. And I suspect it probably drains pretty well and it's very successful. There's at least 9 burrows around it. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to use a little device in order to try and find where all the exits are. So if you're going to do something like fumigation, fumigation works because you've got a seal. So here's our hole, there's an exit. If we allow the fumigant to go through that, it'll be useless. Now, phosphide gases don't have an effect on the rabbit's behaviour. So the rabbit is going to sit there, breathe it in and then die. The rabbit is not likely to try and burrow out because at this point in time the rabbit still thinks a predator's out there and it's going to catch it. You don't get very many dig outs. You do get dig ins because another lot of rabbits have turned up and they'll dig in there, they'll scratch out the dead rabbit and set up and breed again. The methods that have an impact on individual rabbits, and that's like ferreting or shooting or fumigating rabbits in a burrow system, and even baiting, are difficult to sustain and usually see rabbits return in high numbers again once it rains again. You can't out-kill them and you can't out-eat them. Well, next we're going to set up some charges for implosion. That which changes that dynamic is that the burrow systems aren't there for the breeding. If I just fumigated these burrows, the burrows would still be here, the next lot of rabbits would move in and occupy it. Rabbits have to have burrows to breed successfully. Righto, fire in the hole. There's the hole.
Well, when we met Tim about rabbits and what we're going to do about rabbits in Port Campbell, Tim said we have to have an excavator. We looked at this spot here and we thought there's like 30 rabbits in here, I don't know.
Oh, at least.
30 rabbits like all at once. With Tim we thought this was a good place to showcase revegetation, make a corridor coming from the community park right through to the recreation reserve with some vegetation, and also make it a nice sort of walk through the town and get rid of our rabbit problem. The box thorn provided a harbour for the rabbits so they can get under that box thorn and then dig burrow systems, which they almost certainly did. And then the kikuyu provided them with cover. So this isn't necessarily about getting a site where you've got no rabbits. It's about managing the rabbits and then revegetating the site. The challenges in any community is for all of them to act together to the same high level
and in unison. Having treated the burrows, having ripped the burrows, having dug out the burrows with mechanical equipment or imploded the burrows, you then follow up, monitor reopenings, fumigate those burrows or re-rip. By doing that over the largest possible scale, that you have the greatest impact. But how's will achieved? How's that commitment happen? It's because each individual feels that it's important for them as a member of the community to act.
So yeah, that's great. If you see any rabbit burrows, we've got an app where we can put exactly where the hole is. So therefore, when we've got a picture of the town, we'll be able to say, look, we need to rip in 4 places, we need to fumigate in 4 different places, we need to implode in a spot, and then we've got it, it can all be done at once.
There was a massive community-driven action through biolinks, and at the same time there was a growing expectation of public land managers to control pests on their land, as we are obliged to do under law. So yeah, the first I'll talk about, which is the camera monitoring. It's the first kind of step in the project, and we wanted to gather as much information about our area to inform what we would do next. So these are all threatened species that exist on the perimeter of the township. Pretty amazing that they exist on our doorstep. Lots of bandicoots, which is always wonderful, but also lots and lots of foxes and cats. So, and some other nice things, just a couple. A massive learning, and probably something that was pretty surprising to us, is the density of foxes is extreme surrounding the township, and that's most likely because we have such a high rabbit population that they're actually supporting the foxes and probably making up a really large part of their diet. So it's a brown goshawk, and it landed immediately in front of the camera pretty strikingly with a rabbit. So we'll start breeding them, and everyone can have a pet goshawk.
The community's taken quite a few different actions to help address the problem of rabbits.
So the whole property is 99% rabbit proof, and the house is rabbit proof as well.
And eventually my yard had no rabbits. The lawn grew back, the veggie garden grew back, and it was quite a transformation.
Calicivirus was released. National Parks was the main player in that. We cut up 40 kilos of carrots. We put the calicivirus on the carrots and released that.
We've been involved in trying to catch them and dispose of them humanely.
Then we got some ferrets. Ferrets were a really popular way of catching rabbits when I was a kid.
Rangers have been trained to fumigate warrens, to not only control rabbits but to also control foxes and cats.
I don't imagine that we'll ever get rid of all the rabbits. I think that they're part of the habitat now. So looking forward, let's go for biodiversity. Biodiversity is king. It is absolutely what we're aiming for. So where no individual species has greater evidence than any other.